Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're fading, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? This was not a show I expected to do today. But before we get into my extended intros, as my intros always tend to be, but you love me for it. Even if you don't love me for it, say you love me for it. But I'm going to do my YouTuber stuff first. So first of all, if you like this kind of content, I was just talking about this today, earlier, at the Douglas County. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, yes, please subscribe, like, and share. Oh, here's what I was going to say. You know, I don't have a big YouTube channel. I could have a big YouTube channel if I did the typical things. That was proven today by a short I uploaded. I think it was yesterday morning. It's already got way more views than most of my stuff, because if you do the woke stuff, you do the making fun of the woke stuff, you get a lot of views. I like doing the inside baseball to the Libertarian Party. Very few people do that. I'm providing a service. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also, what I would truly appreciate, and I did have someone up their patronage today. They were a $10 a month patron and became a $15 a month patron. And I can't tell you how much that means to me, and it really does help me keep going. So patreon.com. Oh, I think I got something schmutz. Pink Flame of Liberty. I just came from a county affiliate meeting. So patreon.com patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. I would truly appreciate it if you would become a patron. It really does help me out. And I do see I have some comments already that I do want to go through. And by the way, Ecamm updated its software, so the chat will end up being better on screen, where I'll be able to scroll through the chat on screen. Unfortunately, I have to do this on this little screen I have off to the side here. But hello, everyone. And Daniel says we're just going to put this up on the screen. To all you malcontents watching, we're going to bury your coup like all the rest. And yeah, we will. Indeed, we will. My opinion on this has been pretty well known. And I agree with Andrew. This is a show that I wish didn't need to be done. But I'm going to start this, and I'll justify this statement as the show goes on. But to those of you who are doing this, I've seen a lot in the party. I could list off for you the states that have tried this sort of thing, this illegitimate sort of thing, and lost. So I'm going to say something that's really going to mean something in the context of everything I've seen. What you have done is probably one of the most profoundly stupid things I have seen in the past 2 years. And considering the stupid things I have seen, that's an achievement. I'll give you an achievement award for screwing the pooch. This was really bad, and I know it's not uncommon knowledge that Mr. We're gonna not try to get demonetized, Rat Cluck himself, Mr. Sarwark, somehow had a hand in this. And if you're relying upon his advice, your reliance is misplaced. I'm not saying Nick's a stupid person, because he's not, but this was a stupid move. And we'll get into it, but I want to just give everyone, an update as to what's going on. Hopefully this will not be a multi-hour stream. I'm not going to recapitulate in great detail everything that has happened, as I've done. This is my third or fourth show on this topic. They're all categorized under the playlist of LPMI. Go and watch them all. But the short summary is there was a defective convention in July. It had notice issues. The people affected by it, including a chair that turned out to be improperly removed, appealed to the Judicial Committee of the Libertarian Party of Michigan. The Judicial Committee ruled in favor of the person who was Andrew Tatterton, who had appealed, and reinstated him to his position. I mean, that's the short story. There were some other changes. And then the people who were not happy about that then called for a special convention, as they were permitted to. The special convention was set. It was going to happen April 1st. All these folks had to do was go to their special convention, have a legitimate convention, and let the chips fall where they may. I'm going to be very upfront with you, as this is not a secret. Andrew has become a friend of mine. I did not know Andrew well before all of this. In fact, I knew people on the other side a lot better. It's funny, this has become a theme. Maybe I'm just too loose in my friendships, because on most of these really illegitimate coups that have gone on, the people I've been closer to have been the people on the wrong side. The other person who is claiming illegitimately to be chair at this time is Joe Brungart. I know Joe. I like Joe. I served on a platform committee with Joe. Joe is smarter than this. If you're watching this, Joe, I don't know who convinced you to get involved in this. But it's not the person I know. It's not a wise move. And if you have a lick of sense, you'll extricate yourself from this situation. I know I've said this a lot of times and it's never come to pass because we're a small party. People don't have money for lawyers and things like this. But one of these days, people who perform bad acts like this are going to get sued. And they are going to lose. And it's going to cost you personally. I am not saying that's going to happen here. I have no say over that. I don't live in Michigan. Neither does Nick Sarwark, by the way. So I don't want to hear any of your shit about somebody who doesn't live in Michigan paying attention to this, because you have no damn problem with Mr. Ratcluck doing it himself. But anyway, I have no say in any of that. I don't want to see that happen to people I know and like. For instance, Joe. I'm not saying that's going to. I honestly think that should have happened in Virginia. I think criminal charges should have been filed against Holly Ward. It didn't happen, but it could have. One of these days, it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen in Michigan, but one of these days it is. And it could be Michigan. Joe, don't put yourself in that position. I know you. I like you. I saw the list of names of people involved. You're the one I know best out of all of the people. There are other people on that list who are my friends that I know, that I've talked to, that I have no animus towards. I don't know what kind of bill of goods that Nick Sarwark sold you, but it's not going to work out well for you. You're certainly not going to win this. And if that's the worst that happens, that's a best case scenario. But a lot worse can happen if this ends up going into the court system. You're not on the right side here. And I'm going to explain in detail why. And I hope that those of you who aren't just motivated by some kind of weird derangement syndrome will listen to me. Because I know you. And there are a few people on the other side that I don't care for. Not going to mention their names. I prefer to say positive things when I name names rather than negative ones. The people I don't care for are well known. The feeling is mutual. But there's a good number of people on that other side that I like and respect, and I am urging you to step back from the brink. So, that happened. That leads us up to this morning when I first learned about events of yesterday. I'm going to pull up the letter that was sent out by Joe Brungart, and we're going to dissect everything that's wrong with it and the big potential legal pitfalls in it and just some practical realities. But basically what happened is a certain group of people who were the board before the JC decision was handed down have just decided that, we don't have to pay attention to the JC and we're still the board. It's like shades of Idaho, but worse. Idaho is much more complicated. The right and wrong of this situation is quite simple. I get it. I sympathize that you don't like the Judicial Committee decision. Of all people, I know what it's like to think a Judicial Committee got things wrong. I got bent over without lube by the past LNC. And the JC, gave it to me again. So I understand what it's like, of all people, not to like a JC decision. But you did not see me, just get a bunch of people together, decide that we're going to sit down and go, we're the LNC now. I went about things the right way. And you need to go about things the right way. What you're doing right now is not right. It is an extreme disservice to the members of Michigan, and you are engaging in fraud. You are engaging in outright fraud. And of all people, I can tell you, I understand. I happen to agree with the Judicial Committee of Michigan, by the way, but that's irrelevant. I can put my money where my mouth is of being able to live with a Judicial Committee decision that I didn't like and resolved to take care of it the right way, which was the way it ended up getting taken care of. You could do the same thing. It wouldn't be the same process because your bylaws are different, but you could, and you chose not to. You chose just to flout the contract between yourselves and the party. And if you don't back off from this, I'm sorry, that renders you unfit to ever be in a leadership position again. And it kills me to say that. But let me also give you another stark reality. A, your own bylaws gave the Judicial Committee the authority to make this decision. But here's the other stark reality. Absent a vote to the contrary, I'm just saying the status quo. Absent a vote to the contrary, and I can realistically tell you I don't think that will ever happen. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't promise this. But I think most people listening will agree with me. Absent a vote to the contrary, the status quo right now is that the Libertarian National Committee recognizes the affiliate that's chaired by Andrew Chatterton and then in the future his legitimately elected successors. It does not recognize you. You are a rogue board who is patently, fraudulently holding yourself out to be a political party that you are not. That is fraud, Joe. You are engaging in fraud. Step back. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Because whatever merry band of malcontents, of certain people who think that a legitimate response to a board decision you don't like is to strip naked in a board meeting, is that really? That's not the person I know. You don't normally align yourself with people like that. So step back. But we're going to take a look at your letter, and we're going to go through it. And hopefully if there's any people from Michigan here who are confused, this will straighten things up. You are forcing a position where the LNC does not want to be involved in this, but you're nearly forcing our hand that we're going to have to be. Logic Rex, whether they took their pants off, I don't know, but they did start taking their clothes off after, in the middle of a board meeting, because that's rational. That's what normal, good faith people do, you know. A vote doesn't go your way, you just start taking your clothes off. I mean, how could you ever doubt that we're dealing with just like perfectly normal people here? And, you know, in public comment, you say things like, oh, I can't wait to meet you because I want to bite you in the neck and drink your blood. I mean, that's perfectly normal, isn't it? My God. But let's go through this letter. Where I'm going to pull up, I'm going to pull up, give me a second because I'm going to need to pull up this letter, but the first thing that's going to come up is an LP News because that's what I have queued up really quickly. But I'm going to pull that because obviously we're not talking about LP News. So let me take down that LP News. Now let me pull in Mr. Brungart's letter. I think I downloaded it. Didn't I download it? Did it go to downloads instead? Give me 1 second. If I didn't download it, I can download it right now. I have it right here on my screen. It says letter to members. Download. Where is this downloading? To desktop. Yeah, it's there. Hold on 1 second. I can just be a really dumb bunny sometimes. Desktop. Oh, it's because it's in document format. Hold on 1 second. I got to convert it to PDF before I can show it to you guys. So give me 1 second. And of course, I don't have Word on this Mac. I have Pages, and I love my Mac, but Pages is a terrible program. But it will convert to PDF. Okay, converted it to PDF. now I can put it on the screen. If you give me 1 second, blah, blah. I am just filling in time right at this moment. But while I am filling in time, remember that all super chats matter. And here we go. I know this is tiny. I'm going to be reading it out loud. It will, I'm sure, get posted at some point on LPDA. But one thing I want you to note here, and I want to move this aside a little bit so you can see me. Okay. Is that it's done on the Libertarian Party of Michigan letterhead. He's holding himself out to be, or the letter, you'll see it signed by Joe, out to be an official representative of the Libertarian Party of Michigan. They are not. The recognized affiliate of the Libertarian National Committee is the party that is chaired by Andrew Chatterton. This is just a fact. It is not whatsoever arguable. So, to represent yourself as the Libertarian Party of Michigan when you're in an affiliate arrangement, when you're not, is just fraudulent. But we're going to go through the important parts of this letter. I'm going to read the whole thing because I know it's going to be hard for you to read on the screen, but I'm not going to stop at every portion. We're just going to go over the main things. Dear members, I'm sure many of you have become aware of the LPM Executive Committee meeting that took place on the evening of January 31st, 2023. I'm not sure if this is the one that people stripped at, but it was right around that time. The reason this meeting took place... Okay, this is what's really funny here, is they are invoking, rather than the voluntary bylaws enacted by the members, they're invoking Michigan Nonprofit Corporation. As we discussed in Virginia, whether or not a state party is incorporated is absolutely irrelevant to their status as the affiliate. The National Party could care less if someone is incorporated. If some merry band of malcontents want to claim that there's some... I dispute this fact. I'm just giving you the best case scenario for them, that they are the board of directors of some kind of nonprofit corporation bearing the same name. More power to them. They will be violating trademark. But if that's what they're trying to claim, fine. That has nothing to do with the affiliate, with bylaws. And let me explain in a very simple way why. The delegates in convention did not vote to incorporate. When you incorporate, if any portion of the corporate law takes away rights that the delegates are entitled to under the bylaws, it effectively is an illegitimate amendment of the bylaws, which can only be amended at convention with certain notice requirements and a certain vote. You cannot invoke a corporate status to invalidate portions of bylaws unless the delegates at convention, decided to incorporate. Nathan, I do not know if the bylaws defer to statutes, but they would be deferring to statutes that refer to the type of entity they were when the bylaws were created. The bylaws cannot defer to a statute that has nothing to do with the type of organization that the delegates chose to create. They did not choose to create a corporation. And in fact, I'm not a lawyer here. So all of this stuff, this next stuff, I'm deferring to what I have been told and what I understand an actual lawyer has said. The incorporation status, just like it is in many states, is just to govern the activities of the board, not the activities of the party, and not the activities of the convention. The board cannot vote to incorporate and take away rights of members. That is, it would be an absolute illegal vote of the board, and therefore the incorporation would be illegitimate. They just can't do that. So Joe has gotten terrible advice right from the beginning. So they're trying the same thing that they tried in Virginia, and we see how well that worked out for them. It said, learned our party has been operating in a manner that is inappropriate given our status as a Michigan nonprofit corporation. From what I understand from the attorney retained by Michigan, that is incorrect. But even if it were, as I've just said, it is completely irrelevant to their status as the Libertarian Party of Michigan. It might make their incorporation invalid, but you know that incorporation is not a criminal thing. All that happens is they're not a corporation anymore, and they remain an affiliate. Joe, I'm sorry, Joe, you're talking out your ass here. The resultant actions that took place after the Judicial Committee released its report regarding Mr. Chatterton's appeal have been found to be unauthorized and void. Found by who? By yourselves? You don't have bylaws authority to do that. None. Zero. Tyler, I've covered this in about 4 hours of prior videos, so we're not rehashing everything of that there. The short answer is yes, and that's why there was an appeal. So this first paragraph is just categorically incorrect. A non-board has zero authority to find the Judicial Committee's findings unauthorized and void. This is circular question begging of the worst sort. But there's something else I want to show you guys. Because Michigan's bylaws are unusual. They're different from national. And I've got to find the section. Okay. I want to show you this section because this is going to come up multiple times. Let me pull this up. Let's go back to this screen for a second. Let me pull down the chat, and I want to pull up the Michigan bylaws. Here we go. You see where it says Judicial Committee. Look at section, first section tells you, what their terms are, blah, blah, blah. But the second section is what is very interesting. This is a very broad authority given to their Judicial Committee. This isn't the power that the national one has. Not this broad, and most states. But this is just a blanket, unambiguous statement. The Judicial Committee shall decide cases involving alleged violation of these bylaws or resolutions. The Judicial Committee made a decision. Mr. Brungart and his friends do not have the authority to just go, their decision was void. Whether or not you like their decision is perfectly valid under the bylaws. Their bylaws give the Judicial Committee ultimate authority in the party, even over the delegates and convention, which is unusual, but it is what it is. If they don't like that, they need to amend their bylaws. But Mr. Brungart can't just go, well, we don't like that. It was void and unauthorized. No, it was explicitly authorized under the contract between you and the members, which contract you are violating by claiming falsely, because we're going to go on to where you do cite Michigan nonprofit corporation law, and your understanding of that is incorrect. As far as I can tell, as a non-lawyer, I always got to give that The plain reading. Let's just put it that way. The plain reading. So, you cannot use Michigan nonprofit corporation law, which was not voted on by the delegates, does not override the bylaws. All that would mean is that you're no longer a corporation. So let's continue. I've got to find, give me 1 second. I got to find that PDF one more time that I was reading from because I have way too many screens up. Okay. This obviously leads to confusion and difficulty as we navigate through the decisions that must be made to rectify the actions that followed the Judicial Committee's decision. You have no authority to do that. There's no difficulty or confusion. It's just that you don't like the decision. It says, why were the actions taken by certain members of the Libertarian Party of Michigan following the Judicial Committee decision? Certainly, many ask the question, what does the Judicial Committee report mean? Well, it speaks for itself. While some took it to mean that the board of the Libertarian Party of Michigan was reverted to its form before the July 9th convention, there are two main issues with that. There's no taking it to mean that. That is what it said. It wasn't vague. That is, in fact, what it said. It says, first, the Libertarian Party of Michigan is a membership organization. Wait a minute. I thought earlier you were claiming it was a nonprofit corporation. You can't have it both ways, Joe. Yes, it's a membership organization governed by bylaws approved by the membership. This is an illogical statement where he goes on, and it's not possible for a committee to remove a member of its board that was elected by a vote of the members. Really? Really, it's not? Most of the people in your little Mary Brown band of malcontents there, Joe, thought it was fine for me to be removed that way. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Your hypocrisy is showing, but that is not true. It is possible for a member of its board to be removed in whatever way that its bylaws clearly allow for, or for disputes regarding the same to be decided as its bylaws. That is what a membership organization means. This is a completely incoherent statement, Joe. There is not authorization in our bylaws for that. Yes, there is. First, you say it's not possible to happen, and then you say it's not authorized in your bylaws, which seems to concede the point that if it were authorized in your bylaws, that it would be possible. But this whole thing is a mischaracterization of what happened anyway. No members were removed because those members weren't validly put in those positions. The Judicial Committee did not remove anyone. They declared an election invalid, which means they never had that position to begin with. In order to remove somebody, they had to have the position. The lack of thought and logic here. I believe the people that authored this letter just didn't expect people to really think about what they said, because they are absolutely contradicting themselves. There is no authorization within Robert's Rules of Orders to accomplish that. Robert's Rules of Order says your bylaws, with very few exceptions, can do what they wish. So yes, there is. And perhaps more importantly, the Nonprofit Corporation Act, blah, 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 specifically authorizes only the members to have the authority to remove a member of the board that was elected by the members. That is illogical, Joe. A, the members did not agree to change their rights under the bylaws as they did not vote to incorporate. But let's pretend they did. No member of the board was removed, Joe. No member of the board was removed. The Judicial Committee decided that there was no valid election to begin with. That is not a removal. Continuing. I lost my spot here 1 second. The Act does allow bylaws to specify other methods. Right. The bylaws says that the Judicial Committee has the authority to decide any alleged violations of the bylaws. So the bylaws do provide for that. Second, the Libertarian Party of Michigan has never authorized the Judicial Committee or any other committee to overrule the actions of its members. Yes, it does if they violated the bylaws. That is exactly what that section says. By the logic of this, the Judicial Committee has no authority to decide violations of bylaws. Who violates the bylaws? Members do, either the board or members do. No matter how many people think it's okay to violate the bylaws, it does not make it that the bylaws hold on. I'm trying to, I lose my train of thought somewhat. No matter how many people think it's okay to knowingly violate the bylaws, if the JC is given the authority to determine if they were violated, that is the authority that the members who wrote the bylaws gave the JC to do. The JC exercised its authority. Whether you agree with their decision or not is an entirely separate matter. Okay, continuing. What should have occurred following the JC report would have been for the executive committee to call a special convention. There's no reason for them to do that. And members have the right to call a special convention, which they did. There's nowhere in their bylaws that says the members need to then act on the Judicial Committee report. There is nothing in there. You might have thought you would have preferred the executive committee to do that, but there is nothing saying that was the appropriate action, particularly since the annual convention is coming up in July. In fact, I would say it's highly inappropriate for the executive committee on their own, absent a petition of the members, to spend money doing something that was going to be resolved in July anyway. Not as if a convention was 2 years off. It was 7 months away. And then it goes on. What is the impact of the Judicial Committee report? The impact of the report is to offer guidance to the members. No, it isn't. It's to make decisions. This is, right here, categorically a mischaracterization of the bylaws. It says that they are to offer guidance to the executive committee and members on how to proceed to better align with the bylaws. No, let's go back. The Judicial Committee shall decide cases, not offer guidance, shall decide cases. This is a blatant misrepresentation. Continuing. Since the Judicial Committee report ruled that the bylaws were violated, it would be incumbent upon the Executive Committee to seek to rectify such violations. Such violations were rectified by the decisions that were in violation of the bylaws being declared null and void. That's it. That's all they had the obligation to do, particularly since an annual convention was coming up in July. And then I'm not reading actually the rest of it because he's repeating himself. Number 4, according to Michigan Nonprofit Corporation Act, again, that doesn't govern the conventions. The bylaws of the affiliate are completely separate, but let's just go with this. The Judicial Committee does not have the authority to remove an officer elected by the members of the organization. They didn't remove anybody. They said an action of removal was illegitimate. There is a big difference between the two. They didn't remove anyone. They said an election and a removal was illegitimate. They didn't remove anybody. And I'm going to defer to the attorney who knows the law that was retained by Michigan that says, even under the Nonprofit Corporation Act, that it was legitimate. However, that has nothing to do with the affiliate. As far as, and absent a vote of the LNC to the contrary, as far as the LNC is concerned, with our precedent with Virginia, our affiliates, board of directors, and our bylaws is according to their bylaws. Then how do we move forward? The way they decided to move forward is, even though the board did call a special convention, which is what they wanted, they're calling a separate special convention for the same day. That is absolutely in bad faith. If really what they thought was needed was a special convention, they were already getting it. It was already scheduled for April 1st. That puts lie to the claim that all they wanted was a special convention, because they're getting it. And if they thought that the members were on their side, they would just go to that special convention and have a legitimate election. Put my cards on the table. Everyone knows that I am... Oh, I'm sorry that the documents aren't changing on my stream. Let me try to do that. I keep forgetting that. There's the second page. As I said, it's no secret that I'm friends with Andrew. There's no secret that, I'm perfectly happy with Andrew being chair. But ultimately, that doesn't matter. What I ultimately care about is a legitimate election. I ultimately don't care who's elected, as long as it's legitimate. As long as it's a legitimate election, let the chips fall where they may. There was a convention set for April 1st where they could have solved all of this and but instead they decided that they're going to ignore their own bylaws, ignore their own internal dispute resolution system. Can you imagine in a libertarian society where people voluntarily agreed to a certain arbitration process, and then when they didn't get their way, they just go, oh, screw it? There is no way liberty would work, and they're proving it by their actions. So we have to hold them to it. And thank you very, very much for the super chat, Quest. So they could have just done things the right way in April. But as it stands right now. Okay, so Andrew's given me information I didn't have. They called for a regular that's even more interesting. Okay. Well, you guys called for the special convention that they wanted, and now they're saying they don't want it. let me just tell you this, whatever it is not going to be absent a vote to the contrary. And I can't tell you how everyone else would vote, but I can tell you how I'm going to vote if it comes up. Absent a vote to the contrary, this is not going to be recognized by the LNC. You want to go join Nick's little group that he is trying? Well, change your name, because you don't have the right to use Libertarian Party. And we will protect our trademark. And you don't have ballot access. And a group that's held together by people who want to bite people's neck and strip when they don't get their way, good luck with that. Good luck with that. I look forward to the dildos that you'll wave at convention the way the same people did, or at least their compatriots at a national convention. This is what you're signing up for. You want to go start another political party? Go ahead and do it. But you are just absolutely incorrect. The Judicial Committee did not remove anyone. They declared an action that they declared an election was invalid. In order for somebody, first, a removal was invalid. So there's two separate positions, two separate issues. There's the issues of filling the vacancies with certain district representatives, and then there's the issue of the vote of no confidence. That's not removing anyone because it wasn't valid to begin with. So citing that law has nothing to do with this. It's just a fundamental misunderstanding. What you should have did is just wait for the regular convention. Now, honestly, I don't know what the LNC is going to do. I could tell you what I want. I want an official resolution. Why? Because I want the malcontents to have appeal rights to the National Judicial Committee. None of the other groups that have been through similar things have ever appealed to the National JC. I would like to see an appeal. The precedent, as far as like the Delaware case is concerned, is not in your favor. The Massachusetts one, ultimately in a tie ended up, not being in Massachusetts' favor, even though it made it absolutely incoherent with Delaware. But I think a lot of that had to do with it being so close to the convention. So take your chances. But I want you guys to have appeal rights. Though we all know, when you get a JC decision you don't like, you just ignore it. But, or just, start a rival group. But if you want to start a new political party, just go and do it. But you're not the Libertarian Party. Andrew Chatterton is the current chair and his valid successors. There's one other thing I wanted to look up. Give me 1 second. Okay, got it. Just wanted to make sure I was correct on something, and I was. So, why was this a stupid move? It was a stupid move because if they, as they claim, think that they're in the right, and they had the support of the members, on April 1st, they could have just went to the special convention and legitimately voted for what they wanted, and they would have been fully recognized no matter what the results were. Why they did this is just insane. Unless the purpose is to go start another party, in which case I hear the Keystone Party is looking for affiliates, but you won't be the Libertarian Party. So that's what's going on so far. This is the stupidest move you could have made. You have absolutely no basis for it, and at least what you cited of the nonprofit law, as the JC did not remove anybody. In order to remove somebody, they had to be validly elected. There was not a notice requirement. And notice is sacrosanct. The special convention's still going on, Tyler. Valid signatures were submitted. As far as I know, I'm not on the board. These developments are still ongoing. My recommendation, I hope it's still going forward. So as far as I know, the special convention is still going forward on the same day as their regular convention, but in different cities, which is just hilarious. And of course, there's another question. I don't know the answer to this question, but I would like the answer to this question. Who paid for the location for this second convention? Did that come out of pocket of this rogue board? If so, that's none of my business. Did it somehow come out of party funds? If it did, that's theft. I have no idea. You know, that's just a question I'm super curious about. But here's something to the folks in Michigan. If you're hoping to be a delegate at the National Convention, you're going to need to be elected by the legitimate affiliate. Casting your lot with the Joe Brungart group is not the legitimate affiliate. And the chances of getting seated in 2024, unless you think you're somehow going to challenge a credentials report, are not very good. And you really want to waste your money going to DC. Wouldn't you rather be legitimately elected? Now, of course, maybe you don't care about that. Maybe you are trying to start another party, in which case I'd actually respect you. I want to say something here that is somewhat unusual. Steve Sheets and I are not friends. I don't agree with him on many things. But out of all of the stuff that has gone on, the person I actually respect for doing things the right way is Steve Sheets. When he decided he did not want to be part of the LP anymore, he went and actually started a new political party with its own name and its own branding and its own messaging. And even though I don't agree with him, and I don't wish him success in his venture, I do respect him for doing things the right way. And that's what the malcontents in Michigan should be doing if that's what they want to do. Instead of trying to fraudulently use a name and a party they have no right to do in the way that they're doing, and completely misrepresenting the situation because you did not get your way with a judicial committee decision. This is completely the wrong way to do it. Yeah, Tom Knapp did do the same thing with the Tea Party, and I respected Tom Knapp for that as well. Go do your own thing if that's what you want to do. But if I have any say in it, we are going to protect our name and our rights. Again, I am but one vote. I cannot speak for anybody else. But this is ridiculous, Joe. You had no right to do this, and what you're citing in the nonprofit law does not apply. And it's pretty funny that you're running to nonprofit law that most of your members have no clue over it, rather than your fucking bylaws, which are the contract between you and the members. Let me tell you who wouldn't even do that. Let me give you some inside baseball here 1 second. Back back during COVID in 2020, when some members of the LNC were trying to engineer a way to have an electronic convention, even though our bylaws prohibit it. Joe Bishop Henchman, who is not somebody that I particularly think has libertarian integrity. And I love when Fabian Liberty raids me. It's perfect. Thank you. But Joe Bishop Henchman even said, you want to know what? There might be something in, and he turned out to be wrong about this, by the way. But he brought up, there might be something, it was either in Virginia or D.C., nonprofit corporation law that will allow us to have a virtual convention. And even Joe Bishop Henchman said, there's no way we can do that to the members. They're not going to tolerate us citing some law that they had no clue over our bylaws that we adopted in convention. Even Joe Bishop Henchman, an absolute scumbag who destroyed party property on his way out, wouldn't do that. And you guys are, or trying to, but you're misciting it. And Tyler, unfortunately, I cannot be the parliamentarian for their special convention for two reasons. When something is going to go to the LNC, for nearly certain, I cannot be involved as a parliamentarian. I can say my opinion as secretary, and I happen to have parliamentary knowledge, but I can't be their parliamentarian. Second, it's on April 1st, and that's the date of the Colorado convention. And I will be in Colorado. However, the Chatterton board, I don't know. Well, actually, I don't know if it's the board. I know Mr. Chatterton is represented by Jonathan Jacobs, who's way more qualified than I am. I don't know if he will be helping with their special convention. No idea. But I couldn't do it even if I were available, because this is probably going to end up at the LNC, and I need to remain an LNC member. And I didn't flake out on you guys. Nathan, you guys flaked out. You're not supposed to have your convention the last weekend in January. That is New Hampshire. That is New Hampshire, not Arizona. And I'm probably going to get asked to do New Hampshire again. So whichever you two guys book your dates first and ask. Okay. One other thing I just wanted to look at, and I'm going to let you guys... Oh, and thank you for the compliment on the background. Let's see here. Oh, well, check this out, Nathan. They're going to have a much harder time with their corporate argument here. Let me put something on the screen to you guys, because we do this in Colorado as well. Because libertarians aren't big fans of laws. And I'd love to see these guys go all fucking statist on their members. Check this out. Let me just take the chat off the screen for a while. This is hilarious. Legal and parliamentary authority. The Libertarian Party of Michigan, in the exercise of its constitutional rights of free association and speech, as affirmed by the U.S. Supreme Court ruling and whatever, reserves the right to accept or decline the application of Michigan statutory provisions which appear to govern its affairs. The incorporation of statutory provisions in these bylaws is voluntary and is subject to the foregoing reservation. Any violations of statutory provisions by these bylaws are deliberate and will take precedence over such statutory provisions. Basically, in their bylaws, they gave a giant fuck you to the state. And I would love to see Joe Brungarten, who again I like, and his merry band of coup masters saying, no, we want to lick the boot of the state. That's even stronger than in Colorado. I think I want to adopt that language in Colorado. So that just imploded their whole argument to begin with. Their argument was bad before. It's worse now. Tyler, there are no resources to turn over because the resources, unlike, this is why I said this was just a monumentally stupid move. They have nothing to gain. Andrew Chatterton and the legitimate board has control of their bank account, of their website, of their data, of their membership list, of everything. The rogue board has nothing but an email address that's not even an official email address. It's like blah, blah, blah at gmail.com. They have nothing. They have nothing but an illogical letter. They don't even have the bylaws on their side. Okay, Andrew Chatterton corrected me on something again. I defer to Andrew on everything. It's a nothing burger in a lot of ways, Tyler. It's Nick Sarwark's way of trying to get the National Party to expend money, time, and resources. That's it. Okay, I'm going to say this. I do it as a joke. I do not believe Nick Sarwark is a Fed. I know a lot of people believe Nick Sarwark is a Fed. I don't. I call him Fed boy just as a joke. But he certainly is just trying to waste everyone's time. He certainly is trying to sabotage the party. I am confident that they will have the money. And if for some reason, all I can say is Joe and company should pray they don't get their hands on the money, because that's when you really start to get into criminal offenses. When you start screwing around with money and it turns out you're not the recognized affiliate, that's when criminal charges start to become a real possibility. So I really do think the coup masters ought to hope they don't get their hands on any money. And I don't even know about how much money we're talking about. Some state parties don't have much, some have a lot. But if I were that group, I'd leave that alone, because that's when you start getting the law really, really involved. But that bylaw provision right there, dude, just blew everything you said out of the water, even if it was valid. And what you said was not valid because the JC did not remove anybody. It said certain elections were not valid to begin with. If you want to talk about a removal, even though it was turned out later to be void, what the LNC did to me was a removal. No one doubted my election was valid. That, like, say this was a situation like with me, then perhaps Joe would have some kind of argument. But it wasn't. They were invalid elections to begin with. I'm not doing that bootlicking face again. That was embarrassing. But okay, everyone, it's been an hour. That's a short stream for me. I do thank you all, and I thank Quest earlier for the super chat. I hope this helped just let you guys know where we are at. I saw some comments that said, you know, they'd like to see the LNC stay out of things as much as possible. That is certainly our desire as well. However, we do need to protect our name. The protecting the name doesn't only involve Michigan. We have, there's a bunch of Trumpians in Virginia. This preceded way before even this LNC, that are using the name that we have ongoing litigation with, that we have to zealously protect our trademark, or we prejudice our rights in that case. We have the New Mexico issue. So we do not have a choice in some circumstances. But yeah, in general, I am anticipating that we'll just continue to recognize Mr. Chatterton, their board, and their legitimately elected successors and offer them whatever assistance that they would whatchamacallit, that they would request. Sylvia, you missed a big part. And actually, in libertarian circles, I disagree with you. I know that's what Robert says, but in libertarian circles, fuck the state law. But the state law is not on their side on this. The state law is not on their side. Their bylaws say screw the state law as well. Good luck convincing a bunch of libertarians that all of a sudden you got to lick the boot of the state. That will not go well. That will not go well at all. But the state law doesn't say what they think it says anyway. Okay, everyone. I think that's it. I'm going to get going. I have some other party work to do, but we do need one soundbite.
Yes, Ms. Harlos.
I think we need another. We need another soundbite. Let me find the right one.
Unauthorized recording.
And Richard, you can say that all you want, but libertarians aren't going to follow it. You're talking to an anarchist here. I'm not going to deny that that's what Robert says, but as a libertarian, my answer to the state law telling libertarians what they can do in their voluntary contractual relationship is, and I think nearly every libertarian would say the same, particularly when their bylaws say that, which is the contract with the party. But then again, I think you should be able to sell a kidney too. So, one more time.
Yes, Ms. Harlos.
We're going to get going. You all have an awesome night. And, yeah, and, God, Richard, I don't care about the law. It is a libertarian thing. We exist to defy. I would think you know that by now.
What you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because